Welcome to Still Serving, the VFW podcast, the official podcast of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And now, from the VFW Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., here's your host, Rob Couture.
And welcome to Still Serving. I'm your host, Rob Couture. Let's do roll call. Over to my left, your right, sitting in the seat next to me, Christina Keenan, Director of National Legislative Service. I'm going to jump over to the other end of the table. Our Executive Director, Ryan Gallucci. How are you? Out there in Rhode Island, we have, there we go, Brittany Diamond Murray. Hi. And our special guest for today. Ryan, go ahead and tee up who our special guest is.
Okay, well, I mean, we do have our whiteboard like we always have here, but it's light on topics. Got a lot of words here, though. So we did our roll call. We can check that one off. But we're joined today by the Honorable Derrick Van Orden of Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District, Chairman of the House VA Subcommittee on Economic Opportunity, VFW Legislator of the Year, retired Senior Chief Petty Officer, Life Member of Thomas Rooney, VFW Post 1530 in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and recent recipient of the VFW Lifesaving Award, and last but not least, Senior Chief Otto in the 2012 film Act of Valor.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
I feel like a really big deal right now.
Owner of many leather-bound books.
Yeah. By the way, this room does smell of rich mahogany.
It is of rich mahogany. And so I have a question. I'm going to jump right in. Actually, I'm going to go back to you, Ryan, as we go over what we're going to be doing today. So it's kind of a short list, right?
Yeah, it's a very short list, a lot of words. And then, of course, as we always do, the good of the order, where, go around and say anything that's on your mind, anything you got to talk about, usually VFW related or veteran related or military related but that's really what we got going on, and really excited that taking the time to join us. You've been a strong advocate for veterans in Congress, and we're proud to call you a fellow life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Well, you're my people.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
I have to ask the question, though. So why are there so many Navy SEALs in Congress? It seems like an inordinate amount of those that wear, is that even the right word? That wear the trident on their chest that happen to be serving as elected officials. Why is that?
Well, I'm not really sure what the root cause is. There were 5 SEALs in Congress, and I always joke that means there was 4 too many. Well, now there's 6, and we're going down to 5. Unfortunately, Morgan Luttrell, who is really my running mate in Congress, I respect him tremendously, he decided not to run for re-election. I don't know, man. I don't know. I do know this, though. When you have more people in Congress who served in uniform, especially in the special operations community, the Congress is going to get better. Because we have proven over and over and over again that we're willing to put the mission above ourselves. And we understand that the mission is always America. It's not social media hits. It's not fundraising stuff. It's not going on cable TV or anything. It's making America a better place for us to live. And so I'm actually glad you're there. And plus, you know what? It's just fun to yuck it up with my fellow frogmen, because we are just, well, you guys are all veterans. We are just brutal with each other. And if you think it's bad, obviously we're not going to pick on her too much, but SEAL on SEAL verbal abuse is real.
Sure.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah. If we had it queued up, we would have piped you aboard. But we were wondering how we're going to do that.
This is how we're going to do it next time. Okay, it's not just the bosun's call. I need 8 side boys. This is hilarious. You want to find a story? So I went to a Navy captain's change of command who I worked for, right? And so he's an 06. I'm a retired E8. And when they lined up the side boys, 06s get 4 and I get 8. So there's 2 on each side standing aside. And I'm sitting there. I mean, I've known Ed forever, dude. I love that guy. And I'm laughing so hard. He's like, geez, you're a big deal, Van. I'm like, I sure am, buddy. And then so his 4 go through. He gets 4 bells. Ding, 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 ding. And then I get 8 bells, 8 side boys, and they play ruffles and flourishes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more than just piping you aboard.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So,
it's a pretty big deal.
I'm just telling you right now,
can we load all that in the soundboard? I mean, that's good. It sounds
Try.
I might be able to.
I don't think 8 people. Can we fit 8 people?
No, we could put them like in the hallway maybe, but you get the whole staff.
And I did
here.
want to say that, I really appreciate you having me here. But next time I want a jaunty hat with a plume. Okay.
Okay.
Put it on that whiteboard.
Yeah, Executive Director Ryan Gallucci, you're probably going to have to put that together. That
means you're going to come back, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
all
That's what I heard.
So of course, this is the VFW podcast, and having you on the podcast, you're our first legislator to be on the podcast, which is awesome. But you're also a VFW member, and I think Ryan was talking about it. We have how many, Ryan, that are in Congress?
There's currently 99 veterans in Congress. There used to be 101, but 2 of them left for the administration. Waltz, and then of course our Vice President of the United States,
also a VFW member.
Also, they were life members of the VFW, or are life members of the VFW. That's not in Congress. But right now there are 33 VFW life members in Congress. So a third of the veterans in Congress are life members of the VFW.
Yeah. And so with that, question is, what made you decide to join the VFW?
It's an organization. So I originally joined the VFW after Bosnia and Herzegovina in like 1997. They considered that a foreign war, and it was the only war we had. And so we all were excited to go because you're a young frog, or I was a younger frogman. And then I came back, and my Uncle Bob growing up was a hero to me, and he was a member of the VFW. And I'm like, I'm finally eligible to join a club that the person that I grew up with was my male father figure, because my dad was a schmuck, honestly. He just wasn't an honorable guy. So when I finally got to join a club that my Uncle Bob was in, I leapt at the chance.
Wow. But I think
Robert Francis Mulligan, gunnery sergeant, 1 each.
Well, we all join for different reasons, but I think a lot of us, we join because of that sense of comradeship that we lose when we leave service. And I mean, we have our circles in special operations community, especially if you're in the community, you guys are pretty tight knit. And
we have our own caucus.
Yeah, you have your own you have your own thing going on. But for those transitioning out of the military, and we all do, just trying to find that place to land and find your purpose, motivation, and direction, as I like to say. And that's where I think that's why it's a good fit, especially for those of us that deployed overseas. Even to the places that went like Kosovo. We both went to Kosovo back in the day.
I did Bosnia.
In Bosnia, I'm sorry. I always do that. I always want you to be in Kosovo.
I was during the peacekeeping missions.
Where were you?
I was in a bunch. So Tuzla, Eagle Base, and then down in Sarajevo and Mostar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lived in a house, not in a base.
Okay. Yeah, I was on base.
Little different mission set.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Man.
2 years later.
And Ryan was an Iraq war vet, and
yes,
so yes, you absolutely were. And I went to Afghanistan a few times, and so there's
me too.
Yeah, so there's some commonality that we share, being expeditionary, if you will, if that's a common factor, and understanding that's a little bit more than just, hey, you come in and not to dismiss anybody's service and never want to, but it's just different, and so I think that's why it's really important. So with that, what made you decide to run for Congress initially? Like, we heard you were doing movies and stuff like that. You could have gone that route after getting out.
Yeah. I heard there was really good snacks. And you know what? That turned out to be true. I mean, I normally don't wear gray anymore because I'm afraid of being harpooned because people think I'm a Marine SEAL instead of a Navy SEAL. I ran for Congress. This is an apolitical organization, but I ran for a political purpose. The guy that was representing my district voted to impeach Donald Trump over the Russia collusion thing. And I did human intelligence at a very high level. I was a recognized expert in all of special operations, not just the SEAL teams. And I was plank owner with these teams and all the stuff, And I read the Steele dossier once and I said, this is a bullshit, politically derivative document. And then I looked at the tone of everything that happened after that and how things just started getting visceral and nasty. And they shot Charlie Kirk in the throat the other day, killed him. And I saw that our country wasted 2 years of time running these political games. And I'm like, we don't have 2 years of time as a nation to waste doing these meaningless things. And I'll tell you what, that's the biggest frustration in Congress. We could do so much more good if we stopped wasting time. And you know this for sure. But our daughter passed away 2 years ago from cancer. And when Sydney died, it really gave me an understanding of time. And one of the reasons I like hanging out with all you cats is it's a very unfortunate reason, because we've all had friends that have either been killed in combat, killed in training, or committed suicide, right? Not a single one of us that touches all of us, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you understand time. And we have to look at this collectively, that we understand we're only going to be in this mortal coil for a certain period of time. And if we're not doing everything we can all the time, then we're not serving our God, and we're not serving our country.
All salient points there.
That's a really good point. Because I do want to shift gears a little bit to, your work in Congress. You recently got your first bill signed into law, and I think the connection is time and urgency.
Right.
Because, you had conversations with Christina ahead of time about issues that you saw with VA's home loan programs.
Yeah.
And then when Secretary Collins saw similar problems and chose to sunset the program, you had already had your bill introduced. And you were working, I'm sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth, probably sharing the story ahead of time, but you were working to get this done urgently.
Right.
And it made it out of committee, it made it through the House.
Unanimous.
But then what happened?
Then it got signed by President Trump. Oh, last Congress?
Oh, no, this Congress.
Yeah,
This Congress.
It got signed into law by President Trump. And on that day, there was like at least 700 veterans that got to stay in their home because Trump signed that bill. Boom, 700. And that can help up to 3.5 million veterans. And it's going to save the taxpayers up to $16 billion, because that's what the VA blew. And hey, can you put the camera on this one? Okay. Do not be fooled by this. Oh, ha, ha, ha. She is a bulldog.
Yeah, she is.
And that bill would not have gotten the traction that it did without your direct efforts.
I mean,
and I'm a senior enlisted guy, and I don't throw credit where credit isn't due. You crushed it.
well, I appreciate that. It's really not just me, but we saw once the bill passed the House, there was not a lot of urgency in the Senate, and so
that was politics.
Yeah, so the VFW. So that was for me to communicate to members of Congress in the Senate, to the committee staff, and then we put out a VFW action alert, and VFW members also communicated the urgency on that.
Right.
So as an organization, we kind of rallied around this and said, this needs to get done. And I don't know, a week and a half later, the Senate was voting on it.
Were you asking me what happened?
Well, that's where I was going with it.
Oh, sorry.
Because it made it through the House very quickly. There was a lot of urgency in the House. It's like, hey, yes, we understand why the program's sunset. We gotta have a reasonable, policy-driven replacement, which is what your bill did. Yep. But then after it passed the House, when we started having conversations with the Senate, they're like, oh well, I don't know.
It was politics. Honest to goodness. And I want to thank John and Esteban and Chase. He leads, and Holly and Haley. They're both on the subcommittee staff. They really put their foot down. And one of the reasons that was slowed down is because it had an HR in front of it, not an S. And I just think, that's not okay. Just no. So bulldog.
Yeah, no, we were really excited about it. We were able to tell our members over the summer at our convention, this bill got passed, and we got to be part of it. Our VFW members got to be part of it by sending their senators emails and making phone calls. So, that's sort of what, VFW believes in this. So we're ready to take action in a moment's notice. Yeah. So that's...
And she is being a little bit coy, because also...
That's what I was saying earlier.
Behind the scenes, there were some discussions when you're talking about the politics and the urgency and the time. I was privy to a couple of difficult conversations that she had to have with people, basically saying, look, you put out all of this stuff saying, oh, all these veterans are going to lose their homes. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. But where were you to tell veterans what they needed to know, and where was your urgency to solve the problem?
And here's a piece of paper. If you vote for this, it's going to solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, let me tell you something that's kind of cool. So President Trump, I don't care how you think about him. I love the guy. He is hilarious in person. He is really, really smart, and he gets pilloried in the press all the time. But anyway, so I'm like, how does this work? Because I never wanted
signing.
The bill signing. Yeah.
I didn't want to be in politics. I learned from my staff all the time about stuff, It's like, oh, you go up to the White House, you go into the Oval Office, he'll sign it, he's sitting at the desk, and hand you a pen, take a picture, beat it. I'm like, okay, check Raj. We go to the White House, we're sitting in this anteroom, And they're like, change of plans. I go, oh, really, what? And they go, okay, we're going to go here into the Lincoln Room, and the entire press corps of the planet's going to be there. The president's going to speak, and they expect you to do remarks. And I'm like, oh, great. When are we doing this? About 7 minutes. I'm like, oh, great. Let me go to the bathroom real quick. Yeah, it was really cool.
We were streaming it. We had an all staff meeting, and I had it on my phone. I was like, Ryan, look. Look, it's
happening now.
It's being signed right
now. Look, we know that guy.
Yeah, that was just kind of a surreal experience. And so my mother, interestingly enough, she was so far left. If she went any farther left, she'd be right because she'd go in a circle. Right? She was a Minnesota farm girl, and whatever. Right? But she's my mom, and there's 2 times I thought about her. During the inauguration, we are in the rotunda, and the leadership of the free world is there, and I'm there, and I'm like, why am I? Oh, that's right, I'm a member of Congress, And my mother would have been so proud. And then having that bill signed, having the president, regardless of who the president was, hand me that pen, my mom would have been really proud.
Yeah.
She would.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's a good moment, right? When you feel that, no matter what. I mean, because look, we don't choose, just like in the military, we don't get to choose the people that we're with. Just like our family, we don't get to choose people we're with, but we can still be civil. That's absolutely true, right? We
have to be. And the climate, if the veterans are watching this stuff right now, and I've gone very, very hard on the people that have been promoting this type of political violence, because that's not what we fought for. Were you like going into a room and you're in the stack and you're like, oops, sorry, you're a Democrat, I'm going to have to ask you to step over here. Or there's a wounded service member, your battle buddy, Army guys call it. Did you go up to him and go like, oh, hey, I think you may be gay, so I'm not going to help you?
Right.
You never occurred to us.
No.
Right.
Never once.
Female, so it's just stupid. That's why I want more veterans in Congress, so that we can bring that sense of, I don't care what this looks like. I care who you are as a person and a fellow American. That's what we bring to the table. That's just real.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of, drawing on our history in the VFW. That's kind of what this is, the Honor the Contract stuff. We kind of drew that from some of the political cartoons and things that used to be in the VFW magazine in the 30s. And it's something really poignant that happened in the 1930s. You may have seen it walking into our building. We've got Smedley Butler there and a quote about exercising your right as a voter and speaking about issues and debate and in the 1930s, what I took away from what we read is there was a lot of yapping at each other. It was, no, communism is the way to go. No, fascism is the way to go. And American veterans stood up and said, or there's another way. There really is another way if we just work together.
Yeah. There is, I don't know if you've been in the whip office. You must have at some point. Did I take you in there before?
No.
Right when you walk in on the left, there's a quote from Isaiah. It says, come, let us reason together. And we've lost a lot of that in Congress. We're not reasoning together anymore. And it's very unfortunate. We try, listen, I've gone so far out of my way to try to be bipartisan. One of the members of the Wisconsin delegation took me 3 months to get a half-an-hour meeting, and the office was right down the hall. Another one still refuses to meet with me. And it's shocking. I've spoken on the floor on Democrat bills. 69% of my legislation last Congress was bipartisan. We're on track to be even more so this Congress, because you don't have to be a Republican to have a good idea. Now, granted, we have a lot more good ideas. Hey, but
that's probably why you ran with the R next to your name.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I really try, and I think being in human intelligence really helped with empathy. And I'm very empathetic. People think I'm just some, crass person, which I can be, but I'm really super empathetic. And so I look at these people from the other side of the aisle, and some of them are brilliant. I mean, like brilliant, and they care deeply about these issues. So am I going to be this egotistical prick that's like, give them the Heisman, or am I going to tap into that intelligence and try to understand how they reached the opposite conclusion that I did? And so I really listened to him. There was a big thing on the floor yesterday. Now, this is a Republican thing. They were discussing some like real minutia sort of things about a bill. That's why the floor was held up for like half an hour. And two of the guys sitting there, McClintock and Obernolte, they're two really smart guys. And I'm like, okay, if they're if they're holding up at that, and I'm on the whip team, and there's time for a Van Orden and there's time not for a Van Orden, right? That was not the time for a Van Orden. That was the time for a Van Orden.
It has a name now?
No, I'm serious. So what I did is I just leaned in and I looked and I listened to two people I respect tremendously and heard their arguments, and I started to understand it. And then the speaker was there, the leader was there, the whip was there, Queen Anne was there, and they were talking to them and they were presenting things from just a slightly different perspective so they could understand it. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's what's supposed to happen, but that's within our conference. Now, if we could actually move that, so we do that publicly, we do that privately. I get a huge amount of Democrat friends. If we could do that publicly, it's going to be a better country.
Yeah, just showing that as an example of what can happen.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about another piece of legislation that you introduced, the TAP Promotion Act, which would facilitate a smoother transition for service members as they get out of the military and go to civilian life. Why is that improving the transition important for you?
Because within about 24 to 36 months is when our service members kill themselves. That's why. And this is why they do it. You lose your uniform, you lose your rank, you lose your authority. The joke with my wife and some of her friends were twice the husband, half the paycheck. It was just kind of funny, actually. Hey, my wife and I are super, ask my people, we are super happily married. It's like 33 years now. But she's awesome. She's my jam for real, dude. But so that's what happens. And then we fall into despair. And so as a senior NCO, you can talk to somebody on the phone. Oftentimes you can hear, I'm very good at this. I can hear stress really well. But there's nothing to replace sitting across. It can be a kitchen table. It could be a restaurant table. You could be across a bar from each other. I don't care. But when you can look one of your troops in the eyes, you know that something's stewing.
For sure. That's
why these organizations are so critically important to making sure our veterans stop taking a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And I've had some very bad things happen in my life. Our daughter passed from cancer. I mentioned that. You know, there's some other things, huge health issues going on with my family. But I know that this too shall pass. That's another biblical principle. This too shall pass. But you got to get past it. And that's what we do for each other. And it's really super important. And I'm an incredibly huge advocate for our organizations because I'm an incredibly huge advocate for veterans not killing themselves.
I mean, it's a huge priority for the VFW as well, which is why we pushed that piece of legislation. We just had a fly-in. Our legislative committee was here last week. And they've promoted it to pretty much every member office in Congress. And so we hope to see movement on that.
Do you want to see an interesting and yet tragic similar circumstance? It's our farmers. So some of these guys' families have been farming for over a century. They call them century farms. And because of the things that are going on with the agriculture industry right now, some of these farms are closing. They lost their identity. They failed their family, and they're committing suicide at record rates. It's exactly the
similar
same
dynamics.
principle. Yeah. So I don't know if there's like a VFW for farmers or something, but it'd be, I'm only half joking.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredibly sad. And weird to see some of those parallels.
It is weird. Smedley Butler had talked about that in his Christmas letter. He had said,
Christmas message.
Christmas message. He had talked about, get with those farmers. They're a great outfit. And so even back then, like you recognize the similarities of those that are willing to give up things and do things for the greater good, whether that's in service. Yeah, you know what I mean? Look at that.
Yeah, there are some parallels.
But anyway, I was, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I just wanted to build off of that. So you're currently serving on the Veterans Affairs Committee.
Correct.
And also the House Armed Services Committee.
Correct.
So what do you see as your role sort of trying to bridge that gap between DoD and VA?
That is an outstanding question.
I love this question.
And here's something that has changed with this administration and with more of us being on the VA committee and HASC. So we had DOW, Department of War, show up for the first time twice. So they get invited to everything. We want them as witnesses. And it never showed up. Pete rolled in and Donald Trump rolled in. And we got more people that actually can control the Department of War's budget. And poof, they showed up. So that gap is critical because there is aspects of the TAP program that are controlled by the Department of War. And then the programs that we augment with are from the Veterans Affairs Administration. So there's always been this, kind of VA Department of, at the time, Defense, back and forth.
The fiefdoms.
Right. So, but here's the thing. Doug Collins and Pete Hegseth are buddies. I mean, they're like friends. Doug is a retired Air Force chaplain. And if you don't think he has empathy for us, you are just wrong. And they're willing to do things that other secretaries were unwilling to do, which is to humble themselves. They had the first first meeting where they signed an MOU.
That was huge.
We talked about that on this podcast too,
and
because
it happened at the VA.
Yeah, the gesture of the almighty Secretary of War going to the lowly VA was profound, and that gesture to me was meaningful. It's like because it's always we're DoD. We know what's best, but this was, like you said, humbling themselves that there is a shared responsibility in the issue of transition and a shared responsibility in the issue of suicide. We are going to do what's right.
Right. I don't know, and if you can fact check me, because I honestly do not know the answer to this question, but I think that's the first time that's happened. Are you familiar with that happening?
The first time that I've seen it.
Yeah.
In a 125-year organization, there are things that have happened before.
I don't know, but to me it was profound.
Right.
When
Agreed.
Pete packed up the car and went to visit Doug.
Yeah.
It usually is the other way around. The meeting is usually on the terms of the Pentagon. And it's never on the terms of VA or meeting on the turf of VA.
Hey, can I give some inside baseball to the vets? And take this for what it means. So Dennis McDonough was a friend of mine. He was the previous secretary. And Dennis McDonough wanted to do a lot of things. He really did. Now check this out. So you can't get Trumpier than me. Like, it ain't happening, right? Dennis McDonough was President Obama's chief of staff. But we were able to come together because we were putting the veterans first. But Dennis McDonough was unable to accomplish a lot of things because some of the people that were at the VA were actively subverting Dennis McDonough. And that's not cool. When you're the man or the woman. So that's part of the cultural shift that's taking place. So when you guys hear all this stuff, they're firing this amount of people and some of that, a lot of it's for cause. Because you have to act as a unified front. Imagine if a bunch of sailors were subverting the skipper. What would happen, right? So we can't do that. And I'm talking about Dennis McDonough, President Obama's chief of staff. So we're trying to get those chains of command streamlined. They're doing the same thing at the Pentagon because you have to work with a unified purpose. If we're all on the same op, but we're doing 4 different missions, it's not going to turn out well.
Right.
So that's what's taking place. I want to give you guys and gals comfort that it seems really tumultuous now, but there is an end state, and the end state is making sure that every single tax dollar goes to a veteran for either their health care or for like Chapter 35 for the kids' school or for VR&E things. We want them all focused. We want to remove the bureaucracy, not remove it, reduce it tremendously, take those monies and apply them to aspects like hiring more healthcare providers, for instance, hiring more people that check you in at the VA or process your travel claims. That's what we're trying to do, is refocus it. That's what Doug is trying to do. And Pete's trying to do it at the DoD too. And I know, don't get me wrong, it appears chaotic, especially from the outside. But there is an intended purpose, and it's you, making you and your family's life better.
But we didn't even go over which camera was yours, and you already knew which one.
But he knew. Spot on.
I think he's done this before.
Yeah,
Remember Act of Valor?
Act of Valor.
Yeah.
Well,
Which, by the way, I was really good in.
Humble too.
Yeah. Well,
Listen, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's old now. It came out in 2012.
yeah.
There's no script. Like, there's no script. So everything you're watching is me ad-libbing. And so, like, I went in this boat thing. That was the first one filmed. And I didn't even know who the guy was because I didn't have a script.
Oh, wow.
I just didn't know.
Wait, you can make movies like that?
Well, they're like,
Take notes, Ryan.
it was bananas. They're like, you got to go in there and find out what's happening, when and where. And I go, okay. And apparently they told him that he's going to come in here and he's a crazy Navy SEAL. He's back on his way to Afghanistan. We have no idea what he's going to do. And his name's Alex Vidoff. He's a friend of mine now. But he's like, huh. And so I was thinking about this. I go, hey guys, listen, I know you Hollywood dudes think we get a world map, like chuck a dart in there, boing, go kill everyone in that country. You know, it doesn't work that way, right? There's a little bit more forethought that goes into this. So, and training. And yeah. So I'm like, I have to know something about this dude. And they're like, okay, his name's Alex Vidoff. I go, oh, thanks. So the night before that yacht scene was filmed, which again was the first scene that was filmed, I stayed up all night. I got no sleep. I'm on the computer trying to figure out who this guy is to get something to work on him, right? My initial plan, I'm going to go in there and pretend like I was a State Department guy because I wanted to freak him out by not freaking him out. You know how that works? Mm-hmm. That's why I was in that suit. But so I'm like, I found he's Alex Vidoff. He was born in Ukraine. He's ethnically Jewish, or he's a Jewish guy. He worked at a service recreation acting troupe for 6 months. I found his ex-wife and how much he paid for his house and then a picture of his daughter. You know, I'm like, okay, so I'm like going in there because I don't know who the character is. So everything I say, watch this again and you'll have a new insight. Everything I say is about Alex Vidoff, the actor, because I didn't know who Christo, the character, was.
Oh, no.
So,
oh, my God.
I mean, it's tricky. And my whole plan, I was going to walk in there, right? So you went to you went to Bosnia, right?
I did.
So you govoriti malo hrvatski? You speak a little Serbo Croatian? Okay, so I did. By the time I left that deployment, I could do probably 80% of the meetings. I always had a chirp, but I didn't know what's going on.
You started to understand it over time. Oh, yeah. Just listening to it every single day.
Right? Mm-hmm. But so my plan was go in there and be like, hey, dude, you know, govoriti malo hrvatski or govoriti hrvatski, gospodina? Do you speak Serbo-Croatian, sir? And he's like, no. And I'm like, oh. And it's like Russian. I'm like, I don't speak Russian. I'm like, how about English? So pretty much my entire ice-breaking plan was destroyed before I sat down.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then this thing, and then we'll talk about what you want to. But so in the movie, I slide this thing over, and this is after smashing stuff and doing everything. You know, slide it over, and then in the movie, you see Alex Vidoff with some actor girl in a pool or something, right? What Alex Vidoff saw was Alex Vidoff's real daughter. And that was shot continuously. And I'm talking about, what about your daughter? She's going to be locked in a box and your wife's going to find something. And he's like, and then I slide that over, and he's a really good friend of mine, but you know, it's really hard to make individual muscles twitch on cue. And so when they zoom in, his eye goes like that.
Authentic reaction.
I did an interview with the New York Times, and he was like, at some point I separated from reality.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, that was a hoot name. And it was for recruiting purposes, and it worked.
Well, I tell you what, you know, Brittany and I were talking a little bit about, you know, about this. And one of the things is like your life is almost like an action movie in some cases, as of recently, right, Brittany? I mean, that was something that we were going to definitely talk about. I'm going to let you handle this one.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Here I go. It's a little bit of a detour away from legislation, which I think we're going to come back to. But we'd already touched on it when the podcast started. So VFW recently gave you the Lifesaving Award, which was huge. And I was super grateful to be there for the presentation by our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, last week. And so what you did for that little boy was above and beyond amazing. And who, you know, was in that terrible car crash a number of weeks ago. And so you have amazing skills. Your background, or Rob just mentioned your life has been kind of like an action movie. Most people don't have your skill set. If I came upon a situation like that, I cannot promise that I would have been able to do the same things you did. And I think I'm probably in pretty good company. But what's really interesting about this is that you acted without hesitation, using your skills and training and knowledge from your time in service. And we're seeing similar instances like that around the country as veterans are responding, rising to the occasions in the moment, during other types of disaster scenarios.
Yep.
They're coming to the aid of their fellow community members in times of great need. And so one question I wanted to ask you, Congressman, is how do you see the value of veterans and communities? Why are veterans and communities so important?
Well, we're talking about the GWAT generation now.
Yes.
That's us. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier. We can identify something more important than ourselves. And that's, our mission. And unlike a lot of civilians, and they're great and whatnot, but we're willing to risk life and limb on the regular, because we've proven it, to help other people, even when we don't know them. I'd never seen that. His name's Sawyer Witt. And by the way, he's keeping his leg and his arm.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
I don't know who that is. What I saw is a horrific accident. I mean, horrific. If you didn't see the story, that minivan was going like 70 miles an hour at least and hit the back of a stationary semi on the highway. And I watched the minivan disintegrate in my rearview mirror. My wife was like, "You're just a prop." She's not my wife. She was at this point. She goes, "What was that?" And I looked at her and I said, "Someone just died." I mean, that's how bad this was. And the thing was blown to pieces. Anyway, why are veterans? Why do we want them in the communities? For that very purpose. There's a lot of people that will see things and just carry on. One of the most maddening things, this trend, there'll be like an accident or something happens and everybody pulls out their phones and starts filming it.
Instead of
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
That is a human being in front of you in distress. Or someone that's about to be in distress, meaning a kid walking in front of a car or something like that. And we're just different. We're just and that's not a discriminatory thing. We're just different.
Yeah.
And we have common experiences, and we understand that something is more important than us often.
Yeah.
What were the injuries that you attended to that he had?
So he's an 11-year-old boy, and essentially all the flesh from the outside of his right lower leg was gone from the knee to the ankle. So you could see his tib fib just like a anatomy and physiology book.
Wow.
And he's a really big boy, so he had about that much adipose tissue, and it's just weeping blood. They had a open fracture of his radius and ulna, and his ulnar nerve or ulnar artery was cut. So I turned around, I drove up the median, and I stopped about 15 meters away because I didn't know if the car was going to blow up, and then I just ran. So to me, right now, in this stage of my life, running is an emergency procedure, or I'm being followed by a wild animal or everything. Right? So this was an emergency procedure. I mean, it met the criteria. I'm like,
Time to do something.
But I ran over there, and the driver looked okay, and then I went to the other side where they took the brunt of the impact, and I see this, this young man in a very bad configuration, and he's one of the bravest people I've ever met in my entire life. But I ran back. I had a suitcase. Okay, if you don't believe in God, you're going to now. I ran back to the suitcase. I grabbed 2 pairs of socks, tied them up. I threw them to another person that was there. They tied it, and there wasn't enough material to make constricting bands. Or excuse me, tourniquets. So I made constricting bands, but it's still bleeding. And then by then, more people showed up, and I was like, "Does someone have a knife?" And they handed me a carpet knife or a box cutter, And I cut the seat belts, and I had enough material for tourniquets. And this is trippy. There's like this 65, 7-year-old farm dude who's literally holding the roof of the car up because it kept poking me in the head, and there's no door. And I'm like, I don't know where it is. And it wasn't time to do an inventory, but I go, I need something like a stick or something. This old dude holding up the roof of the car reaches over and grabs the windshield wiper and goes, and just rips it off with his hand. And I'm like, taking note, never fight that dude. You know what I mean? You're losing that one.
Wow.
So
I'm glad he's on our side.
Yeah. Handed it to me. I bent it in half. I made the initial tourniquet because this was the major bleed. And that stopped. Very thankful. And then I was like, I need something else. And a lady, the thing you turn for the car jack? That little piece of metal?
Yeah.
She hands that to me, and I'm like, wow, that was amazingly impressive. I mean, I stopped for a moment to go, wow, I'm still strong at certain points. Yeah. Then made one for his leg. And it was, by then there's a whole bunch of people, and I hear behind me as I'm trying, like, it's really hard to put a tourniquet on to make it stop bleeding, especially when someone's big, right? Because the arteries are inside, And I heard, we got to start doing traffic control. And I turned around, looked over my shoulder. There was no police there yet. Those are just random Americans. They blocked off the highway. They're protecting us as we're helping this kid. So this is why Sawyer is amazing. He goes, is my leg still there? And I said, when someone's in, if I ever start talking to you like this, be really worried.
Wow.
Because something's bad is going on. I go, yes, your leg's still there. And find out his name. And I'm like, Sawyer, you're going to be okay. And I said, I'm a medic. And as a matter of fact, I'm a Navy SEAL medic. People like to hear that. And he said, when's the pain going to stop? So the ambulance is going to be here shortly, and they're going to help with that. And he said, okay. And then he sat there. And I've seen SEALs in accidents and stuff like that, right? That are not that brave. This is why you're about to believe in God. We were literally driving from my house in Wisconsin through Iowa to get to Missouri to go to the second anniversary of our daughter's death. And they had to move that to the end, the memorial service. So we were in that place at that exact time because we were going to go celebrate the life of my daughter. I mean, it was, yeah.
Wow.
Unprofessional.
No, I mean, it's amazing that you were there because this boy's life was saved. Right. And unfortunately, it was for a sad reason that you were traveling down that road, but something amazing came out of it.
Yeah. And we visited him on the way back. So airlifted him. And so he looks at me and he recognized me immediately. And a lot of people are in that sort of stuff. They don't remember stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, thank you very much. I wouldn't be here without you. And I said, you're welcome. And now you owe me. And this is what you owe me. You will grow up to be a fine man. Yeah. And his dad, Mr. Witt, was on the other side of the bed. My wife is standing at the foot of the bed. And I said, Mr. Witt, you don't know this about my wife and I, but we lost our daughter 2 years ago. And I'm very thankful that you're not going to have to share that experience. It was a profound moment.
I'm sure it was.
Amazing.
And, I think that's there's something to be said about answering the call in your life. And a lot of us as veterans, we felt like we answered the call of our nation to serve when we did. But if you've come home, where some of our friends haven't, and some of us are still not around because, they decided to end their life. Yeah. There's still a call in your life to do something good for your community and for your life. And I just want to thank you for your example for that.
You're welcome.
And
likewise.
And not only, go ahead, Brittany.
No, I couldn't have said it better myself, Rob. Congressman Van Orden, that hits close to home for me because, my sister died when I was 12, and it was a horrific experience for my family, and it was from a car crash as well. And so I'm very happy that child's family doesn't have to experience that because of you.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
So
there's a lot to be said. It's a common, we talk about in the office a lot, and just we're veterans. We've all served overseas. We've all in different ways answered that call. And sometimes when there's an issue, when there's a problem that we see, it's all too common for people to say, well, somebody should do something about that. Well, we look around the office and there's a lot of times we say, well, we're somebody.
Correct.
We can do something about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then do it. The best marketing slogan that actually should be taken into all spheres of your life was Nike, just do it. And I talk to people all the time like, well, I was going to, join the military. I was going to be a SEAL. I was going to what came up? Well, I had to mow the lawn and
right.
Stop that. So when you're seeing your buddies that are having issues, don't wait until they kill themselves to regret not saying something. So I get up in people's grills. I was not just a SEAL, I was a SEAL corpsman. I was the Distinguished Honor Graduate of the Army Special Forces Medical Sergeant's course. And I like saying that. You know why? Because I beat the Army.
Add that to the whiteboard.
Add to the thing.
Dang, man.
Put that on there. But yeah, it's so stupid. So I get up in people's grills all the time. And I'm like, how's your melon? How is it, right? No one's going to commit suicide on my watch because I didn't intervene. And you do this too. You see somebody missing arms, legs, half their face or whatever, go up and ask them what happened to them, where it happened, and how their melon is. I just went to Walter Reed.
You literally did that for me.
I know I did.
When my face broke back in February, the first time I saw you, you asked all of those questions. And it was a moment of like, God damn it, thank you.
Yeah.
And every time you've seen me since then, you keep ripping on me for my face.
I make fun of it. I did it before I walked in. Like, hey, how's your face? And you're like, you tell me. I'm like,
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. Our grievously injured service members, they feel dehumanized. And, they can't do a lot of stuff they could do before. And it's just this downward spiral. So get up and tell them, where. I met this Marine at Walter Reed. He's E5 and he was part of this run. They what's the name of the company? Cigna, the insurance company. They sponsor this run once a year where, handicapped people with no legs or, they do this run. It's a really long distance. And so this Marine's there. And I was a corpsman, dude, before I was a SEAL. So I'm like, Marine, get over here. And he only has 1.5 legs. I go, where'd you leave that thing? And he goes, Afghanistan, where? He said, like singing. I go, I've been there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a dump. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So treating our folks, our brothers and sisters that are grievously injured as human beings is critical to their mental health. And guess what? It's also critical to yours because we all know friends like that. And it helps us understand, one, we did make it back. And that's good. We got to start celebrating that and getting rid of the survivor's guilt. And it also keeps us in touch with our brothers and sisters to help them, which helps us mentally.
That's right.
Definitely.
It's a win-win.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know we were going to get so serious on this podcast, and I'm super glad that we did. That's for sure.
Man, we call this deep thoughts with the high school dropout. I dropped out of high school when I was the second week of my sophomore year. That was like the institution no longer had anything to offer me. That's from Animal House.
Wow.
I'm not going to steal John Belushi's line. Yeah, man. So sometimes we do need to wax poetically.
Yeah.
Because when we have the underlying philosophical understanding of why we feel ways that we do and the actions that we take, we can help modify behavior. And the behaviors that we're trying to modify are our friends killing themselves. And I think that's a pretty good behavior to modify. Mm-hmm. That's why we really need to have the base. It's kind of like, so SEALs we are the experts at the basics. You guys you're all high speed and everything. SEALs shoot, move, and communicate. Mm-hmm. And then when other things happen, if you can shoot, move, and communicate, it's going to be cool. And it's the same thing here. Mm-hmm. We have a baseline thing in common. We have a baseline thing in common. That's right. Yeah. And we can move forward from there.
Yeah.
You got to know where you're at before you can figure out how to get to where you want to go.
Oh,
that's the truth.
Boom. I wrote that in my book.
Yes. Did you drop that one in the movie too?
As a true Navy SEAL wrote that in your book.
Yeah. Yes, I actually wrote that. It was funny. I was just talking about this. They tried to hire this ghostwriter, and his Adam, he's a nice guy. He hands back, here's a writing sample. I'm like, absolutely not. You will never capture my voice. But the guy that published the book was actually a movie producer. Long story. He doesn't know how to publish a book, and I don't know how to do it. So Adam spent all of his time teaching the movie producer how to be a book publisher and me how to organize this book. It was like a dumb experience, but it turned out well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Totally fun. Where are we, Ryan?
know.
Where are we this?
I mean, I think we're coming up on the good of the order.
I think we are. I think we are. Yeah. I tell you, this has been, I was like coming into this like, oh man, we're going to have Derrick Van Orden here and it's going to be great. And I did not expect to go this route because it's one of those things that we try to talk about amongst our fellow veterans that come in here. And, a lot of people will put you like, oh, you're across the street and you're, and so
the honorable.
Right. And so that's, I mean, you get those titles.
He said that on purpose.
It's right. But I think it's important to people know that you're like them, you know what I mean? As a veteran, as a VFW member, as a person.
Yeah.
And so like, to talk about these things and have real emotion and really understand the reason why we do what we do, advocating on Capitol Hill for our fellow veterans, is because we don't want them to go without. We don't want them to be homeless. We don't want them to take their lives. We want them to be able to live their full life now that they've come back home. Yeah. And super important. I'm super glad that we had this conversation. So I think, Ryan, probably appropriate. I know that you're on you got a hard time coming up here pretty soon, but hard stop, I should say. But just leave it to you. What's some things that you want to kind of leave us with?
Here's something hilarious about what you just said. I don't let my staff call me Congressman or sir to stay grounded. So they call me DVO or they call me Derrick, with one exception. It's so funny. I got a dude on my staff from Mississippi who was in the Navy, and he's just like, I just can't do it. So he calls me senior chief.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And I do that for a reason. So there's a lot of super important people in Washington, D.C. And if you don't believe me, ask them. They will tell you.
Yes, they will.
So mandating people to call you sir leads to making them open doors for you. Leads to you start looking at them like furniture. And if you want to see me, senior chief, pissed, treat a person like furniture around me. Ain't going to happen. And we have to do that. That's a function of self-discipline. I'm undisciplined in a lot of other ways, but we stick to that hard and fast. And so you got to raise a lot of money for Congress and all that stuff. And I'm really good at it for the digital stuff. And they're like, how are your videos? They're so authentic. How do you do that? I'm like, because I'm authentic. You're like,
I just talk.
Me, and I don't have a script, and I just turn the camera on and say dumb things, which I'm good at that. And people want to see that. Yeah. And I know I joke about Congress all the time. There's a lot of very, very good people up here that are not seen, and we have a lot of personal relationships between Democrats and Republicans that the press doesn't want to cover because that doesn't me and you getting along. It doesn't. There's no clicks in that. Yeah. You and me fighting and,
Right.
And
can you believe what?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's just disgusting how they do that. They're driving us apart, and I don't want that. And, I try, as I said, really hard not to have that. But I just want to thank you for having me here. I'd like to come back at any time and talk.
Oh, yeah.
You should come back.
Yeah. You guys are invited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
what do you get when you come to my office? What's offered to you?
Cheese.
And?
Beer.
And
a Miller Lite. So next time.
Well, yeah. Speaking of, although we aren't quite finished with the business of the organization.
Well, if this is the good of the order, this is for the good of the order.
Well, okay. So for the good of the order.
Yeah.
I mean,
coming.
Hey,
all right.
We'll wait till later.
Yes.
Sorry, Christian.
All right.
We have a seltzer for you.
Yeah, seltzer. And Brittany, did you bring a drink? Did you happen to bring something?
I do indeed.
Yeah, she does indeed.
Why are you having a seltzer, not a beer?
Because I'm
For the good of the order.
for the good of the order, because I'm expecting. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
who's
exciting
more
news.
excited, you or me, because I'm a grandpa and I am obligated by international law to be
By
thrilled
international law.
when awesome people are having babies. I'm really excited.
I'm very excited. I will,
Well, let's cheers.
Cheers.
cheers, everybody.
Cheers to the baby.
Cheers.
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 Boom. Cheers, everyone.
Ladies and
Cheers.
This is a
Yeah,
first
to
on
Brittany.
the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
United States. God bless America.
Yeah. Boom.
Made in Milwaukee.
Wow.
By the Teamsters, actually. It's a fine Pilsner. I know that. It says it right there. Fine Pilsner.
It must be true.
Well, we're normally at the good of the order, so this seems pretty good.
I would call this the great of the
The great
Yes,
of the order.
greatness. We're improving.
That's the go-to. The GOTO.
We're improving it.
The go-to. We are improving it.
Write out good this time.
Yeah, I know.
Right. It just put GOTO.
That's it. The GOTO.
You know.
There you go.
Well, it has been epic, and we thank you very much for being on
Unprecedented.
here. Unprecedented, yeah, absolutely. And with that, we thank everyone else that has been watching the podcast, and we thank you for joining us.
I'm waving at you. but the camera's over here.
There you go.
We'll go back to that.
Weird out.
There we go.
This has been Still Serving. And when it comes to VFW, remember that we are still serving. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Still Serving, the VFW podcast. To get the latest news and information from the veterans of foreign wars, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media at VFW HQ, on Facebook at VFW Fans, or visit our website at vfw.org.